Welcome to your in-depth weekly astrology overview and zodiac forecast for week commencing the 14th of July. I'm going to share some standout details to look out for to begin with. Then on screen, the event chart right at the start of the week, which always provides an influential backdrop for the whole 7 days. I'll then go through all the key influences frame by frame to give a clear picture of what we can collectively expect. Please stay with me to the end. I'll then go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. All your views and interactions are truly appreciated. If you've yet to sub, please help the channel to thrive and do so now. If you'd like to talk to me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. If you'd like to download your free natal chart, it's got an amazing interpretation, please see below. If you'd like to sign up for your free daily horoscope, please see below. Please visit my new website at patrickarundell.com. It's absolutely packed with celestial goodies. This week begins with Saturn having begun its 5-month retrograde, which this year sees it inverse through 2 zodiac signs. Through to the 1st of September, it is in the sign of Aries. And the retrograde began as last week came to a close. But that doesn't mean that Saturn's not still forging some very constructive links, and I'm going to unpack that for you. Also this week, Saturn and Uranus, the 2 rulers of the sign of Aquarius, continue to collaborate in a constructive way. But at the heart of the week, we do start to see Venus and Mars, Venus the relator, Mars the planet of desire, come into a chaffing right angle, one which is going to peak by the 23rd of July. I will explore that for you. Thursday, a quarter moon, this time in Aries. Aries energy, where we have the retreating Saturn and Neptune, is very much about action, taking the initiative. The moon here can make quick decisions. The sun in the sign of Cancer is asking us to just make sure that we're not doing things that go against our own best interest. Friday sees Mercury start a retrograde, this time in Leo. The pre-retrograde shadow was manifesting itself from the end of June, so you may have noticed that certain communications may have been a little bit slower, but I'm going to explain why this particular Mercury retrograde has some great strengths, particularly as it begins that it's in a very positive alliance with Venus. On the screen now is the event chart right at the top of the week. Now the moon is leaving the sign of Aquarius, but we still have Pluto there. It's linking very productively to Uranus, newly arrived in Gemini, so that air energy is very much to the fore. But the fire of Saturn and Neptune in Aries, both now in retrograde, are still collaborating with Pluto and Uranus. This is a golden triangle. But with Saturn and Uranus both being the co-regents of the sign of Aquarius, I feel that we are going to see a lot more people pushing in perhaps a more rebellious way for facts to be ascertained, to challenge some of the claims that we have seen recently. But if we have got big decisions to make in our situations, the fact that the sun is in a beautiful trine with the North Node at the start of this week in the feeling sign of Pisces suggests we shouldn't go against our instincts. That's really important. But Venus is in the part of the chart that's very much to do with bubbly, effervescent chatting. Can be to do with the ideas we want to express, and also it can be to do with socializing. But Mars is in the much more practical sign of Virgo, and they start to chaff from the middle of this week. I feel that Mars could start to highlight some perhaps imperfections in certain involvements. Someone could start to be a bit more picky, but it's also possible that someone we don't even like that we start chatting to over the next week or so, we may find it in some ways rather hard to ignore. That quarter moon on Thursday, the energy of the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer is about nurture. The energy of Saturn and Neptune in Aries could have suppressed our vitality. And the best way to overcome that is to narrow our focus on what's really important. So the quarter moon could see us a little bit more impulsive, but I don't feel that we should change. The Saturn-Neptune retrograde does need working with. Don't spread ourselves too thin is the message. Mercury goes retrograde in the prideful sign of Leo on Friday through to August the 11th, but it is in a very positive alliance to Venus. So whilst Mars can be a bit niggly and nitpicky, here there is an opportunity to rediscuss something or hear someone else's viewpoint. The nimble energy of Venus in Gemini can see us use a degree of diplomacy to perhaps bring up a subject that has been a little bit tricky before. But Mercury retrogrades can of course cause issues with technology, with transport, with plans, booking, anything to do with travel. And of course what we can do is make sure that we manage all that we can influence in as accurate and careful way as possible. But we can't control everything. But if things do get a little bit frustrating, Venus is kind of saying to us, look, try to take it in our strides, try to be diplomatic. But most of all, try to understand that sometimes when things stop or slow down, it's an opportunity to revisit the subject and find a better way of looking at it in a fresh light. Stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. So Aries, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast could see from Monday some frustration creep in, particularly if you feel that someone is either being oversensitive or, ironically, not being tuned in enough. Mars, your ruler, is face to face with the moon in a delicate location on Monday, which can create some niggle, but also Mars clashes with Venus from the middle of the week. It's going to be important to try to not be too brusque, particularly if something isn't picked up or understood quite as quickly as you would like. That's emphasized by the quarter moon in your sign on Thursday. Again, you could just feel that things aren't going quite as you want. Part of this could be that Saturn has slowed down in the retrograde in your sign, but by Friday, with Mercury also joining him in a retrograde, which goes through to the 11th of August, the potential for crosswires is increased. But ironically, although Mercury is retrograding, whereas Mars clashes with Venus, Mercury forges a very positive link to Venus. Venus is in the part of your situation to do with your ideas. If someone's not on to what you're wanting to embrace or go with quite as rapidly as you would like, or just seems to be a little bit tuned out, that's where the niggle could creep in. But if you just anticipate that this week might not go quite as fast or as exactly as you would like, then you can start to enjoy its benefits, because although Saturn is retrograde, it continues to forge a sparkling set of alliances to Uranus and Pluto. It's in the conjunction with the retreating Neptune, suggesting that the energy you do have needs to be precisely focused. If you scatter yourself too thinly, that's when there could be issues. But it is going to be important, even if Mars is in a very precise and potentially a little bit of an intolerant part of your chart, not to get too caught up with small details. Keep looking at the big picture and knowing that patience will get you to the golden prize in the end. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope. Fire to your device each morning and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Taurus, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast sees a lot of activity in your 12th house. The 12th house is the end house in astrology, very much to do with the spiritual dimension, can be to do with healing, but also to do with deep reflection. Saturn has gone retrograde there, along with Neptune, through to the end of August. You may be drawn towards any kind of therapy which helps to ease and dissipate. Things like spa days would be particularly lovely. But right at the heart of this week, there is a quarter moon, also in Aries. Now that's quite complex. It angles to the sun in Cancer and provides a backdrop energy for the following week. A 12-3 quarter moon can tease information that's been kept out of sight into the open. Now it may be you who feels that it's the time to share something that you've been ruminating upon. The other person may be surprised, or someone could make an observation about you. Then again, there could be some gossip you hear. If someone does try to draw you into some intrigue, I would just politely push that away. However, your ruler Venus is in a part of your situation which can be fortunate about finance, but it is clashing with Mars from the middle of this week, which could bring out that side of you that loves a little bit of luxury. And you may be tempted to splash out on something that gives you some instant gratification. Why not? It's just that Mars is in the very practical Virgo. So if you do decide to splash out, it's probably best to get something that has some kind of tangible benefit as well as pleasing you. Ironically, Venus forges a very strong link to Mercury towards the end of this week, although Mercury goes retrograde. Through to the 11th of August, you may find yourself thinking a lot, along with that deep reflection, about where you live. If you work from home, you may want to repurpose your home space to be that much more efficient, work for you that much better. Then again, for some Taurans, there may be some reflection about making some adaptations to your home, talking to contractors. You may even consider moving altogether. As ever with Mercury retrogrades, there is the potential for cross wires. But the link to Venus suggests that if you do have an enterprise that you're doing perhaps in your part-time, in your locality, you could actually do well from looking again and teasing out some more benefits. So Mercury retrogrades can be positive. So this week does have the potential for reflection, the potential to do something a little bit more impulsive. There may even be someone you're rather drawn towards romantically. It may be someone from your past. But just remember, with Saturn particularly in retrograde through to the end of August, the 1st of September, if you are tempted to reconnect to someone, it will be important to remember clearly why you parted in the first place. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope. Fire to your device each morning and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Gemini, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast makes me think about that solar eclipse which occurred in Aries in March. That provided a lot of impetus for you to go towards long-term hopes, build your connections. Your associates have become very important in the interim. But ever since Neptune in that sign, followed by Saturn last week, went into retrograde, you may start to experience some frustrations, particularly through to the end of August with Saturn. Those frustrations could be because people are not necessarily meeting your expectations, and also at the heart of this week we have a quarter moon in Aries too, and the differences between some of the people you had hopes around could become more obvious to you. It may be about values, it may be about money. Now I feel a big emphasis will go this week on your ruler Mercury's retrograde, understandably. For you it's in the sector of quick communications. Now that can be text messages and emails, so care is required, but also Mercury links brilliantly to Venus in your sign at the latter part of this week, so charm and diplomacy can still hold you in good stead, but can you really tune into them? Because right from the off this week, Mars is in a robust opposition with the Moon. If you do encounter some kind of obstacle, your frustration could be tangible and your feelings be very close to the surface. From the second half of the week, it's Venus in your sign that's clashing with Mars. Whether it is with a partner, whether it is with someone you want to collaborate with, the differences will just be that much more obvious. So although Mercury in the sign of Leo can see us prideful about our ideas, a bit more attached to them, I think actually the rethinking that you're going to do is much more about your long-term situation and about the people you've tried to build connections with. And if they are not going to give you something back in the way you want, by the end of this week, you may be starting to change direction around some of those longer-term hopes you had initially developed in March. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Cancer, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast is the final week of this year's journey of the Sun through your sign. The Sun in Cancer gives you a chance to actualise your individual talent. At the very start of this week, a delicious link to the North Node is urging you to get in touch fully with your soul purpose, because with Saturn and Neptune now in retrograde in the part of your chart to do with your connections to the world, if you're not really enjoying your work, I think it's going to become more obvious now. Now Venus is in your 12th house, which can be to do with money, but also to do with connections to others, relationships, along with Uranus. That can engender deep reflection. It's clashing with Mars from the middle of this week, so there may be a conversation that needs to be had by July the 23rd. It may not be an easy conversation. It may be around your love life. It could be that you're going to develop a secret fascination or even a clandestine involvement with someone. But I think the quarter moon on Thursday is once more challenging you to find that balance. If you are someone who wants to follow your own edict, you're much more of a free spirit, you're really being urged to stay with that. If you're someone who's much happier in a bigger organisation, being part of an overall structure, the quarter moon will see you bend into the will of the needs of that organisation. But the retrograde to Mercury at the end of this week is not all bad. It may see you through to the 11th of August, thinking carefully about how you spend money or earn it, but it does link well to Venus at the end of this week. So a past talent, skill or creative ability could come back to you during that retrograde and give you another option. And I feel that's where you are at the moment. It's a little bit of a crossroads. If you're entirely happy with your work, your worldly role and interaction, I think this week will be okay. If you're someone who is much more of a free spirit, but you're needing to bend into other people's expectations, that's where you may need to make a major decision by the end of this week. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Leo, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast makes me think about the pop archetype of your sign, that you're very charismatic, full of confidence, very outgoing, and like to be the centre of attention. But that's not really fair. Yes, you are someone with a lot of radiance and warmth, but you can also be intensely loyal and also very generous. And I feel over the last few weeks, you've actually gone through a period of feeling much quieter and more reflective. Saturn going retrograde last week was in the part of your chart to do with contracts, travel, agreements, but also the things you feel very strongly about as far as your values are concerned. And the quarter moon, which occurs on Thursday this week, is in the same area and could amplify any tenderness you're feeling. So the Mercury retrograde, which begins on Friday, for sure can see some changes of plan, some cross wires, but also some opportunities, not least that it links very well to Venus at the end of this week. But Venus, in contrast, clashes with Mars from the middle of this week. So what do we make from all of this? Well, I feel that next week the Sun makes its way back into your sign. And whether you are someone who is a more reserved Leo, someone who is more outgoing, you are going to move much more back into your power. And this period where you have felt a little more tender, perhaps slightly less wanting to engage with other people, is going to start to just fade away. But for now, honour your sensitivities, but also be aware that there may be certain people around you who do just have a different philosophy from you. And with Mercury retrograde in Leo, one of the things that can happen is we can be more attached, really, in a prideful way to our beliefs. But if there is someone who sees something so differently to you that it makes you feel uneasy, don't feel bad about putting a little bit of distance between you and them, even if it's only temporary, because next week you will be back on your absolute top form. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Virgo, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast suggests your connections to others, your friendships, your social circle can be very important this week, particularly on Monday when the North Node in the part of your chart to do with connections links very positively to the Sun, and you can celebrate a particular friendship. But as the week goes on, Mercury, of course, your ruler, is going retrograde on Friday, but next week the Sun will join up with Mercury in a more reflective part of your chart. And where I feel this shows up for you, particularly with Venus the relator and Uranus the innovator, in a very visible part of your chart, if you're not feeling particularly happy in your current work situation and you don't feel rewarded financially as much as you would like, it's possible you are going to go through a few weeks of thinking very carefully about what to do. By the time the Sun moves into your sign on the 23rd of August, you will be clearer about your strategy. But if you do find yourself mulling things over, taking soundings, doing some research, or even deciding that one particular involvement or situation does need to come to a close, just try to be philosophical about it. Because where you are aligning to people well, it could be a case of who as much as what you know, and there may be a breakthrough even this week. Because Mercury may be in a retrograde, but it actually forges a delicious link to Venus as the week closes. And don't forget that Mars is in your sign. It gives you a lot of thrust, but it can make you a bit impatient. That could show up on Monday with its opposition to the Moon, and later in the week with its square to Venus. So a little bit of diplomacy will be important, and just know that Mercury's retrograde, yes, they can slow things down. We can get cross wires. You may feel that people for no apparent reason not so much in touch, but it's just the natural way of things, particularly with the Sun joining up with Mercury in Leo next week. So try to take that in your stride. But if you feel that you're not really achieving your full potential, I think essentially what Uranus in particular is saying in its alliance with Saturn and Pluto is you must be ready for a shift. And sometimes in order to go through the shift, we need to prepare ourselves for some kind of separation, or at least analyse truthfully within ourselves what the actual reality of a situation is. So ironically, this week could be very bubbly, friendly and social in some ways, but if you're not feeling it so much, you could actually feel a bit disassociated, a bit disconnected. But it's fine, because actually you're very much in touch with what you need as an individual, and you're preparing yourself for a new beginning that's coming towards the end of August that will be really exciting. And actually what you're going through at the moment is just one of those crossover periods that does happen in life, but also in astrology. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Libra, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast is going to see that part of your nature which can be very skillful about relating come sharply into focus, because we also need to remember that you're a cardinal sign. And when you feel that people aren't fair, you can push back and set your boundaries very firmly. And with Saturn now having turned retrograde along with Neptune in your sector of relationships, that might be an energy that becomes much more obvious from now on through to the end of August in particular. And it's not just those two, it's also the quarter moon on Thursday this week in Aries. And whether it's with someone you work with, whether it is in a friendship situation or a personal relationship, you might find yourself a little bit less yielding, much more determined to say what you want from the situation. And that's really good, because Pluto's journey through your 4th house and Saturn through the 6th has been very challenging at times. So it's important to speak up and say what we need. That's when people are going to respect us. But then it can become a little bit of an arm wrestle. And with Mercury going retrograde this week, although your friendship situation could be interesting with that retrograde through to the 11th of August, you may hear from someone you haven't seen for some while. You could decide to move on from certain situations. Venus, your ruler, actually supports Mercury through that retrograde towards the end of this week in a very good way. Venus is in a part of your chart along with Uranus, which is making you determined to stick with what you think is the truth, what your higher purpose or philosophy is about. However, the end of this week does see Venus clashing with Mars. And the complication for you is that Mars is locked away in your 12th house. And if there is something that has been bubbling around in the depths in a relationship of any kind that's not really being dealt with, your dissatisfaction with that could really start to come to the surface as this week draws to a close. So in a way, the celestial influences are going to interact with where you are in your journey. And I think for a lot of Libran people, there is a much greater need not to always be bending to other people's view of life. But equally, if you show resistance, you could receive resistance back. And that can create some kind of power battle. Now, next week, the Sun moves into a much friendlier part of your chart, and despite Mercury's retrograde, it could see you rethinking some of your long-term plans, but your connections to others is really what is very sharply in focus this week. If you feel very strongly, you must stick with that, but you must expect that some other people can be very firm in response too. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Scorpio, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast could show up as a situation where you feel a bit oppressed. You want to be free, you want to be more flamboyant even. You have a chance to embrace those energies on Monday with the Sun's beautiful link to the North Node, but it's just the Saturn retrograde, Neptune retrograde, and then the quarter moon all in your sixth house of everyday routines, those tasks and demands and obligations. They're in conflict with the part of your chart that's wanting to be more independent. And that's really going to also see you thinking about your work, because with Mercury going retrograde on Friday towards the end of the week through to the 11th of August, if you aren't particularly sated or happy in your work, and it does feel that it's very routine, very mundane, not very creative, doesn't give you a great sense of fulfillment, that could be where you're thinking to create a change. But then again, it could work the other way. Are you spending too much time enjoying a degree of freedom and not making sure that those routines and obligations are being kept up to speed? So that could be the juggle this week. Venus is also in the part of your chart which is deep and passionate along with the electric Uranus, but is challenged by your traditional ruler Mars. Is there someone in your social circle that you're finding rather alluring? Because through to the 23rd of July, if that is the case, you may find that person harder and harder to resist. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. Sagittarius, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast makes me think about your fire element, which gives you an innate passion and enthusiasm. Now, because Saturn has gone retrograde in your 5th house, that can be about romance, but it can also be about where we showcase our talents. But because the quarter moon also occurs in that 5th house this week, angling sharply to the Sun in the 8th house, one of the things that could bug you is if you're not getting a return for where you're investing your energy, particularly financially, or you don't feel people really appreciate you, or they're not as invested in you emotionally as you would like. And therefore, with Uranus, the electric Uranus, on your 7th house cusp, I feel at the moment you're wanting connections to people who excite you, but that can flag out those people who don't excite you. So the Mercury retrograde in the part of your situation to do with your personal independence, your desire for knowledge or travel, is intriguing. It actually forges a terrific angle to Venus in your sector of relating. Mercury retrogrades get a bad rep, they're said to bring problems only. They can bring snags, particularly if you are travelling through to the 11th of August. You do need to take care, or you're discussing a contract, look at the details. But they could also give you an opportunity to look at something again, or you could connect to someone in a new way that really helps you to feel that passion, because it's really important for you. Next week, the Sun moves into your sister fire sign of Leo. That will help to amplify that desire for fire, for excitement, for sure. But what I would say to you is that Mars, in the most dominant part of your chart at the moment, is saying when it comes to your professional situation, do try to be as patient as possible and do apply as much diplomacy as possible, even if you're not quite getting what you yearn for so strongly at the current time. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. Capricorn, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast begins with Saturn having gone retrograde, your ruler, through to the 1st of September in a part of your chart to do with your immediate emotional environment. But Saturn can be about structures, so it may be around a property matter that you can use the retrograde in a virtuous way, attending to tasks that maybe have been delayed or you haven't quite had the time to grapple with, and you could make some improvements from that. But in a more emotional dimension, which the fourth house can be about, because Neptune's alongside can dissipate and drain, but also make us more sensitive, and Saturn can make us more aware of our limitations or make us cooler or receive coolness from others. The quarter moon, which occurs on Thursday, also in Aries, suggests that in a very close family relationship, if it's difficult at the moment to really chime with someone you live with or you spend a lot of time with, that may become much more apparent. Now, in a romantic context, there's a terrific link between the Sun in your relating sector and the North Node on Monday. So if there is someone you want to connect with, perhaps Saturn's retrograde suggests this could be a serious connection. But as the week goes on, Venus, which is very much, of course, about relating, is in a very dutiful part of your chart, but gets into a right angle with Mars, which is going to dominate the second half of July. Now, that's an intriguing one, because if you do feel that you're doing the very best you can to lean into another person's situation, and they're just giving you absolutely nothing back, that really can frustrate you a lot. And Mars is in a part of your chart to do with independence and freedom. So I don't feel it just follows that you have to soak up someone's resistance, someone's inability or disinclination to tune in to some of the tenderness you may be feeling. But with Mercury's retrograde, if you are wanting to change your physical place of abode through moving, and you need to fund it in some ways, do see Mercury's retrograde as a positive. It does actually link very well to Venus. You may have to re-examine things all over again. It could be for some goats, you may even start a business from home. But the key this week is that you're wanting to feel heard. You're wanting other people to notice how you feel. And if there is someone immediately around you who's not getting onto that, I feel Mars's position could just see you want to break out, get together with some friends, do something more independent and spontaneous that just gives you a little bit of space and perhaps some fresh energy, because it could be really quite dense and intense at the very heart of your situation. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. So Aquarius, your week commencing the 14th of July, begins with your two rulers in a perfect alignment despite Saturn's retrograde. And with Pluto also feeding into the equation, if you've got bright ideas that you want to move forwards with, Saturn slowing down isn't going to stop your progress. It could just mean you need to be quite particular about the processes within the idea. So be systematic, be structured, and of course, because it's the third house, just use your language very thoughtfully, because that will see you have the greatest impact. But this is a week when Mercury goes retrograde in your opposite sign, but it is still forging a beautiful alliance with Venus towards the end of this week. If you're wanting to socialise, despite that Mercury retrograde, yes, there could be a change of plan, but it could lead to a better plan, and there could be a celebration to be had. But on Thursday, we do have a quarter moon in the sign of Aries. If you are feeling, with the Sun in the most virtuous part of your chart, that you want to clear up some outstanding tasks before the Sun moves next week into Leo, just don't try to give yourself too much of a to-do list, because when the Sun and the Moon are in a 3-6 square, it can see us get a bit stressed out if we try to pack in too much. So give yourself an achievable target, work towards it, and enjoy it. Why not? And if you do find that some relationship issues do need rediscussing through to the 11th of August. Just see Mercury retrograde as something that can create some snags, crosswires, but also some opportunities too. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning. Pisces, your week commencing the 14th of July forecast begins with the awesome link between the Sun and the North Node, which peaked on Sunday, continuing as you come into this week. You're a very instinctive sign, and when it comes to expressing your talents, do follow those inner nudges. But you know, Saturn, of course, late last week went retrograde. But if you're a maker or a creator, or you're an artist, or you visualize things, or you love photography or music, the fact that Saturn and Neptune are retrograde in the part of your chart that's to do with foundations suggests you may need to be a little bit fluid, particularly through to the end of August with Saturn in the second house. But you could revisit something that's important to you and actually recreate it in an even better way. So with that in mind, and Mercury slamming on the celestial brakes, if you are going to approach something that requires some detail, I feel that Saturn and the Mercury retrograde can slow you down a little bit, but in a productive way, making sure that you are really concentrating on what's important. If you're making some changes to your home, Venus forges a beautiful link with Mercury in the second half of this week, but there is a clash between Venus and Mars from the heart of the week through to the 23rd of July when it's in a peak. Is there somebody linked to your family that you find actually quite alluring, but you may not necessarily particularly like them? You could find yourself a little bit caught up with someone's presence or aura, but not be quite sure what to do. But what I would say is the Sun is moving through the last week of the most joyous part of your horoscope. So despite the Saturn retrograde and the Mercury retrograde, do use this week to be as busy as possible about the things that really give you a sense of pleasure when it comes to demonstrating your great talent and flair. Join me at my new website at patrickarundell.com. You can download your marvellous free natal horoscope with a terrific interpretation. You can also sign up for your free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning, and enjoy my free 3-card tarot, which is absolutely stunning.